The great Gabriella Lewis is here to talk all things Atlanta Dream. Locked on Women's Basketball starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win. Good!
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, thanking you for making us your first listen every day. You guys showed out in April, over 100,000 listens in April alone. We are on track to break that here in May. Really excited about all of it, and thank you for making us your first listen every day. Not just me, of course. It is the incredible team over at The Next Hoops, thenexthoops.com, where we have over 100 reported pieces on women's basketball every single month, along with 6 podcasts a week. And we have somebody on every single WNBA beat, team by team. Gabriella Lewis killing it once again over in the Atlanta Dream side. And I guess, Gabriella, when we think about this dream team, I wonder how different the vibes are for a team that, as Dan Padover, the GM who joined us last week, said, has legitimate playoff aspirations.
Yeah, the vibes are different this year in a lot of ways. I mean, first of all, people came into training camp this year knowing something about Coach Wright, knowing something about the system, where last season there was, starting from absolute zero. And with that, also, I asked almost every single player, what are your personal goals and what are your team goals? And winning was basically always the team goal. And for most, playoffs, at least, stating that. And so last year, there were zero expectations on this team. If they won any game, which they did quite a few, especially right off the bat, it was like, oh my God, the Dream won. How exciting. Whereas this year, there's more expectations. I don't think, you don't have the same expectations the Aces do, but you obviously have a level of they're different. They're going to win. They added some important pieces. And so I think great expectations can sometimes be a little scary, right? They've only won one game this season. And I think there's a little bit of a different vibe, at least, from this coverage standpoint of last year, even when they were losing, it was like, okay, that's kind of what you're expected. And now it's a little bit different.
It is fascinating. So in segment 1, we're going to get into some of the newcomers who are responsible for that change in vibes, that change in expectation. Segment 2 is going to be about some of the returners and their improvements as well. But the place I want to start is somebody who is a newcomer, who is still getting accustomed to the lead, and somebody who you wrote a great story about that is just up over at thenexthoops.com. And that is Haley Jones. And so take me through, if you can, among other things, what it has meant for Haley Jones to have in Danielle Robinson, not just a veteran, but somebody who went to the same high school she did.
Yeah. So Haley Jones gets drafted number 6 to the Atlanta Dream. Renee Montgomery on draft night said to me, Haley Jones was on my Christmas list. So they were very excited to get her. She comes out of Stanford. She went to Archbishop Midi High School in San Jose. And the person who also went to Archbishop Midi was Danielle Robinson. And Danielle Robinson, 11-year vet, was up on the wall at Midi all of Haley's career. And Haley talked to me a lot about this of, she would look up every day and she'd think, icon, oh my God, like that's the OG Midi great. And I asked her, at that moment, could you ever imagine maybe sharing a locker room with her? And Haley said to me, I didn't even think about playing pro till we won a championship. And so I think there was not any expectation that they would be together, but Danielle Robinson said to media a couple weeks ago that, every time she was home, she tried to make it to a Midi game. She tried to play pickup with Haley. She tried to really push her. And so I think neither of them really expected maybe that they'd be together, but it's a really beautiful story of, seeing the icon up on the wall every day in practice, and then now you're on the court with them.
It is delightful to see, and I love that she has that comfort. And you captured it so well. She seems to have a comfort from home in Atlanta. And we heard that from her directly on draft night when I had the chance to see her in New York after she was the 6th overall pick. But kind of take me through what that looks like in practice, let's say the Haley Jones fam, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, yeah. So Haley's told media and myself a lot that she's got a lot of family all throughout Georgia. I thought such a sweet moment, I believe, on draft night or in the first weeks of training camp, she was said, I was supposed to be a bridesmaid in my cousin's wedding, and now I'm actually going to get to go because I live in Georgia. And so that's coming up. But yeah, the Jones fam they're out. Absolutely. They're coming to games. They had their home opener on Sunday. And Haley Jones had a greeting line for 30 minutes, probably. She told me that her great aunt was there for the first time since high school. And then she also had these Stanford folks, right? She was playing against Lexi Hull, who's her Stanford teammate. She had some other folks there. She embraced Aaliyah Boston, who's her longtime friend, who's playing for the Fever. And so also I think what's so fun is, Haley Jones's cousin is Talisha Milton Jones, who's, a WNBA great, played nearly 500 games over 15 years. And so, the Jones fam, they know how to produce winners, and they know a WNBA star. And, Haley talked to me about how she watched the W growing up, but she grew up in the Bay Area, right? Like myself, where there's no WNBA. And so she said that, she hadn't really gone to a lot of games, but she'd always kind of kept an eye on it. And it's pretty cool to be here now for her.
Something, and I don't know if anybody's brought this up, but maybe there could be expansion into the Bay Area for the WNBA.
Maybe. I wouldn't be mad at it.
No, I don't know anyone who would be mad at it. Oh, man, here's hoping. But as we move beyond Haley Jones, who obviously understands the need to pay her dues and to keep working and has always had that pro mentality. Frankly, has had that pro mentality dating back to high school. She also has the opportunity to see somebody who, and the way I put it to Dan last week, has a chance to be a number one option on a championship team. And I don't know that we've necessarily come to understand the level that Allisha Gray has already reached in her career. And while with the full caveat that win shares is a flawed stat, that if you're looking for a catch-all stat, she is 17th in the entire league since 2017 in win shares. She is somebody who is an elite defender who shoots north of 40% from three. And I guess I just wonder whether you've seen early on her manifest herself as that legit number one option on this dream team.
Totally. I mean, like I said, I asked all the players what their personal goals were. And most personal goals are like a little bit more abstract. And Allisha Gray immediately said to me, I want to be an all-star. Mm-hmm. And she said, I felt like I was on the cusp of everything. I felt like my defense was really good. But it was just on the cusp of being great. I was just on the cusp of being an all-star. And so I think that that's really what Allisha is coming in with and then she said to us the other day, I'm actually really happy here. And that's a quote, I'm actually happy. And I asked her, I followed up. I said, what is this different? And she said, it's a fresh start. It's clean. And so I think she seems to be in a place where she's really motivated and she's putting up the numbers to show it. I mean, like you said, has incredible win share numbers. Over the 3 games, she's averaging 18.3 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, right? If those aren't all-star numbers, I'm not sure what is. And so I think she's coming in with this hunger of, I'm on the cusp. I want to be, the best of the best. And I think this is a really good system for her, especially opposite Rhyne Howard.
Mm-hmm. She is even, and again, but we understand Allisha and Rhyne to be the indispensable players for Atlanta early on. And we're going to get to Rhyne in segment 2 because there's a lot that's worth examining about it, about her rise. But Allisha specifically, the thing that jumps out to me is that assist percentage of 24.4%, that she has accepted the mantle of being that top scorer, but it does not, at least from a distance, seem like she is forcing things at all. And so is that your impression as well? This is somebody who, you're saying the system is good for her, but it seems like also she's good for the system, that she is integrated into that in a way that maybe is faster than you had reason to expect.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. I think she fits so well into the system. And I think when I think of the offseason moves of the dream, since the Pat over Wright era, it's extremely calculated. I kind of thought they were going to sign someone at a free agency, big name. I always talked about Tina Charles because she has this connection with Wright. And, they got Gray out of a trade, and some folks criticized the trade because they thought it was, the Dream were maybe giving away too much. But I think that was very calculated on Padover's part, right? To get this player that fits so specifically in the system. She ended up signing an extension, so she'll be here longer, which I think kind of adds to that. Presumably that was adding to the trade. And so I think, she fits so well, and she's adding so much to the system that, right now also, like, some of the offense isn't clicking as well. And without her, I'm not really sure where it would be. I think too, Sunday night, there were some moments where there was some kind of stagnant in the offense, and then Rhyne or Allisha hits a three, and they are back in the game. And so I think she's been absolutely crucial. And I think she's also just really learning the system. She's a little bit shy from her own words. And so, but Coach Wright told us the other day that, Ryan was the first person she reached out to was Allisha. And she also has such a relationship with Nas from Athletes Unlimited. And so the three of them have kind of really come together off the court as well.
There are a lot of teams that use the word culture, right? But ultimately, you're either doing it or you're not. It seems very obvious to me that Atlanta has walked the walk on this, not just talked the talk on it. So I want to talk about those players who were there already as well in segment 2. But first, I do need to let the good people at home know about Game Time. And no, I was not ultimately able to utilize Game Time to get tickets to Taylor Swift that were affordable enough for me, a journalist, to take my older daughter and Swiftie to. That does not mean that it was hard to know what tickets were available, and Game Time was as good as any of them, right? Because you can not only use that app to be able to see what tickets are available, but you're able to see where you're sitting, how that would all work. And so we're going to use it for other events along the way. We've used it for Broadway when I take them to baseball games, basketball games last minute. Was able to use that, even there was a Liberty Sun game this weekend, and I was able to get my younger daughter, who is a Brianna Stewart super fan, to approve, to sign off on our view of the court. She wanted to sit back behind the Liberty huddle effectively, and we were able to see, that's where that was going to be, and we did that together. If you want to do the same, of course, you download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So getting back to the players who were there already, and I know we've talked about this off the air too, just about that Rhyne Howard is somebody who was so impressive as a rookie, had more tools at her disposal, and year 1 to year 2 is a period of growth as much as any other for WNBA players in general. My initial impression, just watching observationally, was her shot seems smoother to me as well. We haven't yet seen it manifest itself in the season numbers, but the season numbers are so early and so young. I'm just wondering, what are you seeing off the bat of Rhyne Howard in year 2, and what is she saying about it?
The first preseason game, I sat down with Rhyne and, kind of one-on-one spoke with her, and it was kind of a new Rhyne, honestly. As a rookie, Rhyne was pretty quiet. She wasn't always, comfortable with media, and it was astounding, right? She kind of, I think, has really grown into her own in this league. And I think you even see this in Twitter in the offseason, right? She was, joking constantly, talking with her teammates. And, I even spoke with Coach Wright and PR folks. I was like, wow, that's a whole new Rhyne. And so I think she has really, it's her sophomore year in the league. She has really kind of settled in, I think, and she has already shown herself as a leader of the team. And so the first 3 games have been, she's still putting up 17 points on average. Yeah. So not bad by any means. I think she had a couple of moments where, she wasn't getting to the rim as much, or she wasn't getting to the line as much. But she's still, I think, has really grown into her own. And like you said, her shot is looking really good as well. And so, and I just think she's taken on this leadership. Like she is kind of that star player. She's the face of the franchise.
Mhm.
And the other night it didn't end up successful, but they ran a play, this elevator screen. They ran this play for her with the final 16.7 seconds on the clock. They were down 3 to the Fever. She has that three. She ends up not making it, but she is the person they're going to go to. And I think folks have known that, but it's become very solidified in a lot of ways. I think that this is Ryan's teams.
A willingness to do that at age 23 is a really big deal.
Yeah.
That in
Yeah.
and of itself is something significant. I also just and we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming schedule, but there are people like, oh my God, they lost to the Fever who had lost 20 straight. And it's
Yeah.
just and I've been saying it. I've been saying it on this show. The Fever are a really good team. The Fever are much improved. The Fever, I believe, are going to ultimately make the playoffs this year. Aaliyah
Whoa.
Boston is, I know, hot take, right? That is my hottest take, is that
Yeah.
the Fever will make the playoffs this year. And we'll see if
They,
I'm right.
they looked,
But
I mean, they looked great on Sunday. So yeah.
come in and get a win like that, that's how you get to the playoffs. But Aaliyah Boston is exactly what she was in college and then some because she's not being
Yeah.
triple teamed. And so you're seeing her efficiency go up exponentially. She's still grabbing the rebound. She's still where she needs to be defensively. Our SEC reporter had a lot to say about Aaliyah Boston over the course of the college season. It was also you, actually, as I'm looking at this. Yes. Yeah, no, true story. And so Indiana's very good. That is not a bad loss. It's
Yeah.
not easy to win in this league. And when you look at what's coming up, you got Chicago, who's been very good early.
Yeah.
And then I've heard in passing some things about the New York Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces who come next on the schedule.
Yeah.
So those are some big ones. Are those I don't know. People are like, "Oh, is it a statement win?" And it's like, not really, because you still got to win a lot, and it's 40 games. But like, do you think you will learn a lot about who the Dream are from this upcoming homestand?
So much. I mean, I'm leaving for a game in a couple hours, right? Tonight they play at 7. I think today is going to be a huge decider, right? They lose their 2 preseason games, they lose their opener to Dallas, and then they make a 19-point comeback to the Lynx, which is, I believe, the biggest comeback in Dream history. And I will say, last season they had basically no ability to make a comeback, right? If they were down at half, every single game they lost. And so that's a big deal. But then they lose to the Fever, where they were up at the half and kind of lost it in those last. So I think Coach Wright has talked a lot about how they need to just do the little things right. They need to get tough. They've reduced turnovers a little bit in that last game. And so I think if they come out today fiery, if they, show Chicago, I think this is an absolutely winnable game, right? And that's also the thing about the Dream is they also last year were able to win against tough opponents, right? They beat the Aces on the Aces home court. They beat Seattle and Atlanta. And, that's the cool part about sports, but it was really the cool part about Dream, right? Is you show up and you have no idea what's going to happen. And so I think tonight is going to be big and then going up against the Aces and the Liberty as well. And I think, you could argue that maybe the Dream, they also really rise to the occasion in some ways.
It's interesting to me when you talk about the Aces and the Liberty, because to me, I think one of the things we're going to learn the most about is Cheyenne Parker's value, and
Yeah.
maybe some showing out here allows the league to fully see it. And I have been delighted to cover Cheyenne for a long time. Cheyenne is continually reinventing herself, but you look at what she has done so far, and it takes it to another level. She has always been an efficient scorer, but she's at 17 a game so far this year, even as she's shooting 50% from the field. This is somebody who is making her free throws at almost a 90% clip, and she's not sacrificing the ability to battle inside in the process. She's even dishing the ball out more than we've ever seen before. So we can talk Allisha Gray, all-star, and that is kind of a shocking thing, especially when you think of framing it off the top as like 17th in the league in win shares over that time. You look at the company she's keeping, and everyone's all-stars around on that list. Cheyenne Parker might well be making the case in just the same way.
Cheyenne looks so good. I mean, she looked really good last year. And this season, I mean, particularly in that game on Sunday, like when she's on, she's on. And I think, she was really beating herself up for some moments she had that, didn't go her way. But they kept themselves in the game because of Cheyenne. And I think she's still getting her legs back a little bit. She was overseas, then came back. And so I think she still has to, kind of work herself up. But she has been looking really, really good. And she's just so much that veteran presence, right? She's been in the league for, I believe, 9 years, right? She has had a long career. And she's just so fantastic inside. And, she doesn't always, like, I think sometimes she's better at the 4, but she's playing more of the 5, and she's looking really good. I think I'd love to see Cheyenne as an all-star. I think that would be very exciting for her and her long career.
I also think part of what gives Coach Wright the flexibility to do that is Naz Hillman's further development. And neither of us get tired of talking about Naz Hillman and her development, first at Michigan and now what she's doing here in Atlanta. But it is worth noting she's in double figures in scoring off the bench. She is whatever. And I heard this in some corners of the WNBA was, she's not going to be tall enough to be able to do this, ignoring the wingspan, ignoring everything else about her and focusing on that. She's clearly somebody who is capable of being a critical rotation big on a playoff team. And, are you seeing more from her this year off the court too? Take me through what the Naz Hillman experience has been like.
Totally. I mean, I see the same thing with Naz as I see Rhyne. I think she's made this her team. She's extremely comfortable. And I think, that when they were making cuts, there was some questions of, who was going to go, right? They had to make a few cuts. And so to me, I was like, there's no way I think Naz doesn't make the team just because she's such a glue of the culture and she's really grown into her own. And then also I think, her shooting's also looking much better, right? In AU, she was making some threes. Rhyne was telling her to make those on the court at Atlanta. But I think she both on and off the court has really grown into her own. And it's so interesting, right? My first ever piece with the Dream, like a year ago, was about Naz. And I think so much about how, she, looking at her numbers then, it's a kind of undescribed, or, it's very different from what they are now. And they were just talking the other day because, I asked a question about, Letitia and me here has not played yet. And Tanisha was like, yeah, that's what happens with rookies. You don't play that much. And Naz kind of jumped in and was like, yeah, I didn't really play that much the first part of my season. And so I think she's seen tremendous growth. And it was very much trial by fire at the end of the season because so many people got hurt, right? They had very few players. Yeah. And so I think she got those reps and now it's just coming with a new level of confidence. And I think you can just see that her game is going to grow, not only as a big, but also where, her shooting on the floor.
In Naz's first 11 games with the Atlanta Dream, she had double figures only 4 times only 5 times and a max of 18 minutes per game. She played 1907 in her 12th game and didn't play single digits the rest of the year. By the end of the year, she's playing 30 plus minutes routinely. Yeah. So that is a very common occurrence. It'll be fascinating to see. And yes, Letitia should hang in there. Haley Jones should hang in there because Coach Wright will find him. She will, that's for sure. It is delightful to chat with you always. Make sure people, if you're following at _Gabriella with 2 L's, Lewis, Lwis, if you are not watching us on YouTube. And thank you to all of you for making us your first listen every day, today included. Make sure you come back tomorrow. The great Matthew Walter joins us. Matthew reporting this past weekend from the Las Vegas Aces banner raising, here to talk about all things Aces, a fascinating team in their own right, who you're going to get a chance to see very soon as well down in Atlanta.
Oh, absolutely.
Excited for all of that. And thank you for all the work you do. Thank you to our listeners. We will be back with you tomorrow, as we are 6 days a week. We are always here to do the work. Until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Tuesday.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.